Hello and welcome to Coriolis Automated Cloud Migration and Disaster Recovery as a Service. In this video, we will be performing a migration transfer of an OpenSUSE server virtual machine using VMware as a source platform and KubeVirt as a destination platform. The entire process will be performed using our Coriolis appliance dashboard. After connecting to the dashboard with the provided credentials, we will have the menus for transfers representing all Coriolis replica tasks, deployments representing Coriolis replica deployments and migrations, as well as cloud endpoints providing us with a list of supported platforms. Here we already have the platforms to be used available. If we want to revalidate the platform details, we can select one and choose edit. In the pop-up, we will have the connection details for the cutover platform in this case, and we can revalidate them, a process where Coriolis will once again try to connect to the platform using the provided info. We can create new tasks by selecting New from the top right corner, and from the list we will select Transfer. Here we will have two options of replica and migrations, where replica will be used for incremental syncs of the VM data until we run the deployment of the machine on the destination platform, while the migration will run incremental syncs and the machine deployment in one task. As we will select migration, the first menu will ask us to select the source platforms as well as its specific options. Here, for VMware, we will be provided with the option to enable CBT in the case that it is not enabled already on the VMs. Next, we will have to select the VM or VMs from the platform pool. We will use just one VM represented by an OpenSUSE server. To prove the full machine migration, we will create a text file on the machine specifying the current date before the migration process starts. When the source options are complete, we will move to selecting the target platform and its specifics, which will be applied on the VM in question. Here we will select KubeVirt, and once the options are listed in simple view, we will have just the title of the machine as well as migration image map, used by Coriolis temporary resources to deploy and to create the current machine. Selecting advanced, we will be able to apply more customization for resource allocation. Now we will see the options to select, being set the ACP, where Coriolis can reconfigure the machine to use the ACP on all network interfaces during the OS morphing process. Windows Virtualization ISO URL used for Windows workloads. Then we will have the namespace, and the last one will be represented by snapshot storage class to be used when creating the volume snapshots. After setting the options for the VM to be transferred, we will have to set the options for the Coriolis temporary resources, which will be represented by migration image map for Linux, which is mandatory, as well as Windows, where the Windows image is required only when transferring Windows machines. A network for the temporary worker will also be required. This network needs to be available for Coriolis to access. And the last three options will represent the resource allocation for the Coriolis worker. Once these options are set, we will have to select the network to be attached to the VM and then the storage pool for its disks. Furthermore, we can push scripts to run on the machine at the OS morphing step during its migration process, and also a schedule where we can specify when the migration task should run. Next, we have the transfer execution options, with the default option to execute the task once we finish this step. Also, auto deploy, where if it is on, the machine will boot on the destination platform once migrated. Shutdown instances, allowing us through Coriolis to stop the VM on the source platform before the transfer starts. Clone disk will be enabled by default, This will allow the disk synchronization between the source and destination platform, and skip OS morphing option, which is meant for transfers between platforms of the same type, and this option, if enabled, will stop Coriolis from applying the platform-specific drivers on the machine. The last page before starting the transfer represents the summary, providing us all the previously selected options. After it started, Coriolis will list all the transfer steps that are performed, starting with validating the selected options for both source and destination, creating an empty disk on the destination platform, creating the disk snapshot on the source platform, creating the temporary resources on the destination platform, attaching the previously created empty disk, and starting to synchronize the disks. When the disk transfer is complete, the temporary resources are deleted. Now, if we check the deployments page, Coriolis will validate the deployment inputs, will create snapshots for the transfer disks, will deploy the instance and OS morphing resources, after which it will perform the OS morphing process to remove VMware tools and apply the platform-specific drivers, and once the machine is up and running on the destination platform, it will delete the temporary resources. When finalized, we can check on cutover's dashboard if the machine is available, connect to it, and list the file created just before starting the migration transfer. As we can see, the OpenSUSE virtual machine just became available on cutover. I will now connect to its console and check the file created before starting the migration transfer, and will also run uptime to validate the machine starting time. This guide sums up the capabilities of Coriolis to perform a migration transfer for an OpenSUSE virtual machine using VMware as a source platform and cutover as a destination platform. Thank you.